Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's my great pleasure. My name's Kaleem Aftab. I'm a film critic and programmer based out of London to present this series of films that is showing at the Vision du Real Film Festival that's taking place online in student universities and also now in cinemas due to the changing COVID rules in the country. So it's all excitement happening. I'm very pleased, although it's a little bit ironic to be doing this program on rights and beliefs on Zoom, given that I don't think I saw a mobile phone or a computer feature very much in any of your films from these great filmmakers that we're seeing today. So today I'm going to talk about the films which are Rondo Final, Bela, The City of the Sun, Timkat, Land That Rises and Descends, The Communion of My Cousin Andrea, and Khan's Flesh, which are all films that look at the rituals of life, look at traditions that have gone on throughout the years, and how human interaction doesn't always have to be over Zoom or over a computer, and how some traditions continue even today. It's particularly poignant that it happens right now, given that I'm on Ramadan, which is one of the old traditions that I'm partaking in. So I was watching these films with great interest. As there's 7 films, what I'm going to do, and some of them haven't been screened yet, I will go and talk to each director one at a time before I then open the discussion up to everybody that's in the program to see what they want to say about the world as we're living in it today. And there's also an opportunity to write some questions on Facebook that will then be passed on to me on the chat that I will endeavor to try and answer. We only have an hour, we have 7 films, so it might be tricky. Welcome, everybody. I am going to start with Moona Pennanen, who made the film Land That Rises and Descends. It's a beautiful work that was filmed in 16 millimeter. It's on the Finnish, and I might mispronounce this, so you can help me here, Kvarken Archipelago, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And where exactly in Finland is that?
That's in Ostrobothnia. It's kind of in the middle of Finland. Yeah, on the coast, on the west coast of Finland.
Is that somewhere that you grew up or you knew about? How did you?
No, I have some relations in that area, but no, I haven't grown up. It's a Swedish-speaking area, and they have this quite specific dialect also there, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in more like south part of Finland.
Can you tell me how you came to make a film there, following the people and this kind of beautiful narrative that we have that feels like a story taking us back into time, but it's very much in the presence that combines nature, humans together?
Well, yeah, I guess one of the starting points of my film was that when I visited the archipelago around, I think 5 years ago, the first time, and then I was immediately struck by the landscape there. It felt really visually stunning and cinematic, these kind of moraine ridges. And then I went to this local small museum, and there they had these masks, like they were showing this like an exhibition with the masks. And then I was like, what is this? I've never heard that in Finland they have this sort of like mask ritual. And then I started to investigate it a bit more. And then I went to study documentary film directing in Aalto University and to do my MA there. And then I decided that this place, it had a lot of elements that I was interested in, that I could make a film with this sort of like an ethnographic gaze and also like investigate my own country's backyard. And I felt that some sort of like a hybrid form was that I wanted to do, like that I've made films that have more like an essayistic tendencies and voiceover narration quite a lot I've used. But then in this film, I wanted to kind of have more like a playful approach to it. And yeah, I started to make research there. I've met with the local people, and I don't really speak Swedish. So like we have to learn Swedish at school, it's compulsory, but yeah, my Swedish was quite poor. So I had to have an interpreter at times with me. But yeah, I met this woman or like a couple, and they start to help me, and they start to talk to me about this ritual, that it still exists, and the local youth, they do it, that they dress up in these anonymous masks, and they have like Halloween costumes also that they combine, and the ritual is from the Catholic times already, like I think 16th century or something, so it goes way back. And I was like super fascinated by this, and yeah, the ritual is quite specific for that area that they do. Like I talked with some other like researchers in Finland, and they were saying that they've never heard of this before. And also I was talking with other people from other parts of Finland, and then they were also saying that yeah, they've never heard this ritual, that it's and then I felt that all these things that start to follow in a way like my intuition. Then I met with bat researchers, and also I heard that they have this like annual sheep tradition where they go to this like they take the sheep to the summer meadows in the like small islands there, and then they take back them in this kind of annual tradition. And all these kind of elements felt that yeah, that but they were kind of speaking to me, that I felt that this place is some sort of like a treasure chest that kind of undiscovered in some ways, that like most people in Finland know about it because it's an UNESCO World Heritage Site. And I think people from outside of Finland that in there, the land is rising at the fastest records on Earth. So I think the place is known for that mostly, but not for these other traditions.
Yeah, and what's incredible about the film is the way that you kind of tell it in an ethereal style, and then all of a sudden we get the mask, like the clown mask, etc., like shocking us with almost what we feel is the present, but it feels always like we're drifting in the past. Is it a ritual that you'd like to attend in the future?
Unfortunately, it's only for the locals. Yeah, I don't think they take outsiders, but in a way, maybe I'm not an outsider anymore because I've made friends with them. But in a way, I would like to participate in it. I don't know what kind of character I would be, but yeah, I think it's mostly for the locals. So I don't know.
Excellent. We'll come back to you later. Now I'm going to move on to The Communion of My Cousin Andrea by Brandon Chavino Abelido. How are you, Brandon?
Fine, thanks.
I'm going to try and remember to say Brandan, actually. Can you, I mean, obviously you're talking about something that everybody seems to know about, which is a communion. But you've done it in this very esoteric way with a young girl and her very different views. A future Stanley Kubrick, maybe we could say. Can you tell me a little bit about playing with the genre while looking at traditions?
Well, it was so easy because my cousin is very funny and charismatic. So I was studying at Cuba film. So when I come back to my country, my cousin and my grandparents asked me to do photos and a video of the communion of my cousin, and it was like very easy. It's a little film, it's humble film, but with playing with her, and we make the film together. And it was like I was trying to do a film that she likes also. And I don't know, it's only that.
You say you're trying to make a film that she likes. So if we explain to the audience, as she's talking, going through the communion, we also see almost inside her mind and how she would make a film about the event. It's almost a mockumentary in a way. What was your set-off point? Was it just, how do I get into the head of a young girl, or was it, oh, I want to play with genres?
First of all, I was interested in time. It is a present time, her reactions and the ceremony, but there is also a future time, because I was with the images like 1 year or 2 without doing nothing, and she grew up a little bit. So with the memory of her of that moment, that was the first point who interested me. So revisit the images when she grew up a little bit. Sorry about my English, because I'm not used to talking English about my films, but I'm trying to do my best.
Your English is great. For your cousin, did you involve her in the editing of the film? How much did she give you ideas? How much is her idea of filmmaking, or did you interpose your own?
Well, all the effects and the effects, the BFX, all that things, she chose them. But the editing, it was me basically. She doesn't edit at all, but he always give me ideas, so I try to respect her ideas and make a film that I like and she likes.
And what did she like the film in the end?
Yeah. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, he have 12 years old. I think that when she's gonna be 15, he are gonna hate me for doing this. But at the moment, she's happy with the film. Maybe tomorrow.
She sounds like a tough critic. And before I go into the next film, I want to ask you, what is the value of the communion in your house? Was that something that you did, that you had memories of? How important?
No, not at all, because it's like I'm not even baptized. My family is not religious, but my cousin, she grew up with my grandparents in a rural place at the country, and so my grandparents, they are religious, and she wanna do the communion a little bit for the party too, like the presents and all that stuff. It's not like a big thing in my family. But I think it was important to be able to talk about my own context too, and that was an opportunity.
Yeah, great. I do everything for presents as well. Great.
Like Christmas.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brandon. We'll come back to you later on. Right now, I'm going to move on to Christina Savitzina, who's made a film called Khan's Flesh in English. This is set, she transports us into a Belarusian village where we get to meet the locals who are farmers in some extent. They're driving tractors, some of them, but they've also got ceremonies and milking cows, and it's kind of transporting us back to a life that seems like it existed maybe 100 years ago. They definitely seem to be stuck in the industrial age, industrial agricultural farming age, rather than today's digital age, although they do seem to like dancing. Christina, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Can you tell me a little bit about this village, and again, whether it's something that you grew up in or you knew about? What's your relationship?
Yeah, I consider this place not as village, but rather as a small place or small town, because it was really like 30 locations we were shooting with, and all kind of institutional and half institutional spaces, hospital, school, music school, art school, lake, psychiatry. It's like a microcosm of, I think, really each society on the globe. And I actually explored it as a model, as example place. And I went exactly there because of this compact size, but it has everything. It also has smartphones and internet. You see teenagers hanging on their smartphones, and yeah, it's a lot of analog stuff still going on. Yeah, but I thought it's a good example to explore. And I knew it pretty well because I spent my childhood and teenagehood there. So I kind of familiar with this place, and it was good to explore. For example, this athletic trainerin, she used to train me also, and she used to come to my house to pick up me from home, so I go and do sport. So it was kind of institution coming to your home and like pulling you to take part into I think we lost our moderator. Maybe he will reappear. Yeah, but maybe I continue so we don't. Do you think, should I continue or should we wait?
Hello.
Yeah. Where away? Kaleem?
One sec. The magic of the internet. I have now jumped onto my phone's internet.
Where
There
did
we
you
go.
lost us?
I lost you when you were describing the village. You talked about the mobile phones, and then you were going into the microcosm of this Belarusian village, and then you kind of.
So actually, I took it as an example place to explore some, say, universal mechanisms. And what I were interested in is what happens with human body and its position, movements, depending on institutional space or situation, like which clothes we put on, where we sit. Like, boss sit always in the head of the table, the bigger boss hanging on the wall as a picture. Person in a more weak position standing in front of other people sitting. So I was interested for this, what the set of rules, set of norms like to us physically. So, and I was interested for that in the first line.
And it seems like quite a patriarchal society in many ways. We see, obviously, when the judges are giving judgment, they're telling the tractor driver that they're going to let him off, in essence, because he has to earn the money for the family. In the hospitals, we often see women there. The milk. Can you? What did you discover? Is this a place that's a throwback, or are we still living in this type of society?
Absolutely, we live in patriarchal society. In some places, there is some more movements in direction away from it, but that's maybe in some moments it's more grotesque in the film and in the scenes, or in other places in the world it's more visible, but it all exists.
How did the people find you with your camera? Because you made a decision to have a very kind of observational camera, if I may. You were static, away from them. Was that helping you get them to be in their natural habitat?
I would say the decision to have a static camera was in order to underline the movement. Because if camera would move all the time, it would take attention to the camera, so I wanted to give this framework because I'm exploring framework. I'm exploring the rules, power relations that give us a framework to act as a professional or as a head of a family or as a teacher or as a pupil. So I'm exploring framework in a kind of sociological also or philosophical way, and I used the visual, used with cinematographer this approach to have a static tableau.
And did you know when you went there that there was going to be this great wedding, or was that a surprise to you?
Great wedding?
Yeah, a big wedding, a wedding that you would be able to attend. Did you know that was going to happen, or?
I was planning anyway to have a wedding in the film, but that was absolutely accident. Which one and what people? That was just, I think, what only wedding in this time frame. So that was a lot of not planned scenes in the film. A lot of that was maybe trying to put some weight to other side, to the strict rules and strict ways of to be more spontaneous with the way we were. And I would ask another day, cinematographer Georg, should we go today to a fireman or to the school? Like, what do you feel like? What is the intuition? Because we had certain locations and we were jungling and dancing a little bit with it.
And when you talk about the distance of the camera, there are also scenes where the inhabitants of this small place, not this village, as you just corrected me, they see the camera and they interact directly with it, whether they dance in front of it, whether they're... Do you think they're... Going to the old favorite documentary question, do you think their behavior was modified in some way with you being there, or how did you...
This is a very good question and a very important moment, because I think real interaction like eye contact with a camera exists only in two scenes. It's a scene in the end of dancing, is really dancing to the camera and performing and provoking in a way, and the scene with psychiatry where people not really know what's going on or not really realize maybe. They're really just sincere, curious, and they come and they look. And this is like really two only scene that direct interaction happens and they break this
4-4, exactly.
Yeah, and in all other cases, that was I was interested in. People has to follow their roles. They don't really have opportunity to interact or be shy because of the camera. Because if you have to get milk out of the cow, you have to do this. Doesn't matter if camera there or not. So I was using the roles of the people, social or professional, as if it would be their actors' roles, as a scripted reality. Yeah, this performative aspect that has all rituals in itself and all actions in a public space, that was I was interested for, because the teacher acting in a school and teacher at home, it's two completely different scenarios of acting, of moving, talking, dressing. Yeah, that was quite an important element.
Thank you, Krystina. And I look forward to chatting you more later on. Now I'm going to introduce Gaetano Crivaro and Margherita Pisano, who made a film with Felice D'Agostino, who's not with us today. His Forrest Gump run-in didn't quite make him get here in time. This is a fascinating film that mixes archive with footage taken from today. lots of different angles. There's a very beautiful scene up at the top, which sees a procession taking place. And then the camera pulls back unexpectedly to almost, I felt like we were on a static camera on a boat because it seemed to like move up and down slightly. Am I right? Was there a camera on a boat in that shot? What was happening there?
Where? I'm sorry, I don't understand the last part. The top?
At the very, when we have a beautiful look of the landscape of the procession,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering where the camera was situated. Was it situated on a boat, or was it situated on the other side of the river? It was
in another bridge. We
bridge.
was in another bridge, and at the beginning of the film, yes, we are in the bridge with two camera, me and Felice in this moment. So maybe I can talk about how the film begin. Me and Margherita arrived in Cagliari 8 years ago, and we was fascinated from this mass of people that go outside of the city for walking for 4 or 5 days. And we start with an image of this fabric and the people passing under the fabric. And this become our ritual. Every year we start filming. But in the same time, I worked in the archive of this city, and we find some video in the middle of a baptism or a birthday. Every people in the city in different times filmed this big mass ritual party. I don't know how I can say. And we collect this image. We start to collect this image for a lot of time, and in one moment we have a collective. We trying to work with participation. We call 8 friends, filmmaker, artists that work with us in different time, and we close in a room. Outside there is this mass of people walking with these signs, and we was inside the editing together, 8 people, and at the end for 2 years Felice and Margherita edit this final cut of this film. That the most important challenge for us was to work with every image. We consider every image archive and not at the same time. We want to edit the image of the present. For me is the image of the past, because every year I think is the same with little change, with little change.
To just help the audience a little bit, can you explain the ritual and who Saint Eusebio is, and what is so fascinating about him in Calgary? Yeah.
Eusebio was a Christian martyr. They killed in 400 years ago. The city of Cagliari called Eusebio to liberate from the plague.
The plague, yeah.
From Orano, Camus, from the plague. And from this moment, every year, they kill him in a village, in a little village, maybe 20 or 25 kilometers from Cagliari. And every year, the people of the city, but the people of all Sardinia, come in this city with a representation with the from every village of Sardinia with clothes, with horses, and they come from this city to this village called Pula, and they come back they start 1 of May, and they come back 4 days later, and they walk 50 or 16 kilometers with this every year.
Is it a ritual that you saw growing up, or how did you, or was it 8 years ago when you arrived that you first heard of the ritual? How did you interact with the ritual at first? Did you go and stand in the crowd one year?
We know someone. I know now. When we arrived in the city, we find an house near the church of Sant'Efisio, and so we interact with people. We was fascinated by the relationship between the ritual and the representation of this ritual, by the ritual and the representation of the power of the institution that presented itself is like a aesthetic way to say we can organize your movement.
And that's what's interesting as well. As we're watching the film, we can see the poverty contrasted with these almost opulence of the ceremony, and this celebration of a power greater than yourself. What was fascinating for you to investigate that? Is that Italy today?
Yes, but is at the same time to investigate how Italy have a relation with the south of Italy. Sardinia is not precisely Italy. Is have a relationship of is the place where the Italian go on vacation in certain times.
And I speak very well English, and I speak Italian, and Gaetano translate.
I try because my English is not perfect.
But la cosa affascinante da ricercare nel rituale era proprio quello che ha detto prima, il rapporto tra il rituale, le storie coloniali che si sono succedute nella Sardegna e
we was fascinated to investigate the relationship between the ritual and the colonialist histories that we can see in this representation. Spanish,
parts of North Italy, Piemontesi, and delle istituzioni che oggi dominano questo rito. E quindi ci ha sempre colpito questo modo in cui le vicende storiche diventavano poi parte dello spettacolo della festa.
And we was we investigate how the historical moments become parts of the representation of the power. For us, is fascinating the ritual itself, but the relationship between the show and the ritual, between the representation of the power that become into the party.
And then you show that because you cleverly mix the footage from the past and the footage that you shot yourself, to give us this idea of a singularity of time, even though time has moved on.
Yes, we are happy if we arrive to make this, because this was what we try to make in this film.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. I will come back to you later on.
I apologize for my English.
No, it's great. Perfect. Now I'm going to move on to The City of the Sun, Maria Semenova's film, which almost is an ironic title given the sun doesn't really shine like it does in south of Italy, in Siberia, where this film is set. And we follow the story of a young boy who is on a voyage with his father to see the second coming of Christ. And it seems like he has, for me at least, I was interpreting, he has memories of grieving memories of a mother, which wasn't necessarily the case by the end of the film. But it's a fascinating tale about what we look to in our lives for salvation. Maria, congratulations on the film. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started off on this journey to Siberia yourself?
First of all, I want to say thank you for your question and for the festival and for members of the selection committee. And well, this is a really close and isolated community. This community is really isolated from the modern world. They live without mobile phones, internet, and all this. And of course, they all believe that their spiritual leader is a true incarnation of Jesus Christ. And as it was a really close community, it was quite hard to get in there. It took me about 5 months to get in touch with the believers. Because when I first asked the head of this community if I may come and start shooting, they said me no. And it was such a strong no, like no chance. We do not love foreigners. We will not allow you to go in there. We do not love films, and just leave us alone. And then after 5 months, I finally got permission. And what is important to know is that without this permission, I wouldn't be able to get in there, because on this way to the sacred mountain where the City of the Sun is located, there are several checkpoints with guards. So without permission, there is no possibility to get in there. Well, so lucky I am to get the permission. Yeah.
Can you tell me about the son and the father, who are the center point of this film?
This is a real story about like a local story about family, like simple as earth. Yeah. Like the father believes and the mother doesn't, and in the middle of all this, between two parents, there are children who do not care about God or about all this stuff. They just want to live their childhood happy. But when this little boy came to the community, his mind started to change very slow. And it was really important for me to show this long and slow process of suppression of hypnosis and indoctrination. And well, the most important thing for me was to show this long process, that it doesn't happen instantly in a moment, like you don't change in a moment. It's a process.
Can you tell me about filming the shots? Because you use a lot of light and shadow, especially in the interiors. Was that set up? How did that come about?
Partly this is, it's not fiction. Well, this shot of his mom, it's real footage, their family footage. So it's his real mother. Of course, these dreams, they're like fiction part, but also all these letters, they're like a collective image of a child who fell under the influence of the dogmas, which he doesn't understand due to his age, but which start to change his mind constantly. And so I did a lot of research about the fate of the real children and about the fate of this exact child, and what I came up with the idea of such letters.
And how was it how was it received? Was it difficult to get the scene where you actually shoot the descent down the hill and the proclamation, which I won't say too much about, but
all these rituals, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, yes, it was quite difficult because some of the rituals we didn't have a permission to shoot them. Well, during all these rituals, we had like guards with us who would like told us what we can shoot or what we can't. But well, anyway, it was a great journey to the community. It was quite great. Yeah.
There's a very dark undercurrent to the film that surfaces, especially with the desire to have people give up their lives and give themselves over to this community in an almost cult-like fashion. Was that the most disturbing aspect for you that you saw?
It was quite scary that from the first sight, what was going on in this community didn't look dangerous. It looks like just happy people live their lives there and nothing bad is going on. But it is scary that you can't recognize that something is going on with you. You can't recognize these changes. But they are happening, but really slow, really constantly, but they are.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. We'll come back to you as well. And now I'm going to move on to Ico Costa, who has a Christ figure in a much warmer clime in Gandor, which was the former capital of Ethiopia. And Ico, can you tell me a bit, because you film a ceremony that happens in Timkat. Can you tell us about this ceremony?
Hi. Yes, I was. Well, I didn't go to Ethiopia to make a film about that ceremony. I happened to be there because I was searching for. For locations and stuff like that for a film that I never got to make. But I brought a Super 8 camera with me just to shoot whatever. And when I arrived in Gondar, of course I knew the Timkat was happening. But I just wanted to, throughout all my days there, I just wanted to shoot several stuff of my trip. But it was so powerful, that ceremony, that I ended up shooting everything there. But the Timkat, it's a ceremony that represents the baptism of Christ, and they do it every year, like in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. They have to get baptized every year. It's not like once in a lifetime. It's just every year, and everybody goes there, and especially in Gondar, they do it everywhere in Ethiopia, in the Christian part of Ethiopia, of course. But in Gondar is like where is the most charismatic place, and there's also 1 or 2 shots in Lalibela, also in Ethiopia, where like one of the last shots, actually. Yeah.
And when we're watching the film and you show us this ritual that's taking place, what's striking is the number of people, the whiteness of the costumes, the desire on their faces. How were you taken by what you saw?
But everything, the music, the chanting, but their faces, I was very struck by their faces. There is a part, several parts of the film where they gather around this tank or swimming pool, and they wait for a long time for the priest to come, and while they were waiting, they were very. I started to zoom on their faces, and I was very impressed. And the costumes were amazing too, because it revealed that they were all in this together. It was something that, in my country, doesn't happen anymore, or at least with such strength. Of course, there's ceremonies and religious ones, but this one impressed me a lot for several reasons.
Can you tell me, also deal with the history of Ethiopia and obviously colonialism and how the country changed under Italian rule? Was that something that was apparent to you, or did you search that out?
Well, while talking to people there, I always realized when they were talking about their history and everything, a lot of people said often that, oh no, because Ethiopia is the only country that was not colonized by a European country except for 4 years and then 2 years more, something like that. So, but they consider that just a small event, and they are very proud of it, that they are the only African country where one of the countries with more history, like as a country, it's one of the oldest countries in the world, even if their borders are not the same. But so it was something that when I talked to people, they talked about that very often. And also I was interested in that. I was interested in knowing what was their opinion about that and why was that so important. And they always also put together the religion with the with the country, with the strength of the people, and it's like it was something that was they're always very proud of their civilization.
For you, what did you think about the idea that was central in their mindset, that if they didn't get baptized every year, then somehow they wouldn't enter heaven? This blind faith, some people would call it, or deep belief, if you looked at it another way.
Sorry, what was the question?
How did you find that mindset?
Well, in this film, I don't judge. I'm not religious. I'm not a religious person at all. For me, personally, it doesn't make much sense. Of course, I don't believe in heaven, but but anyway, this film was not really about the religion itself. It was more about the people being together and people, believing in something that is very powerful to the nation as a nation and to the people as people. But I really don't have much to say about it.
Because there's an idea that we see in some of the other films as well, that by having this faith, you can deal with the hardship of life.
Of course, and that is very present in them, in the conversations that I have in them. Now, obviously, although I'm not a religious person, I got impressed by their faith, and maybe I'm not impressed by the faith of people here in Portugal or whatever, because I'm used to it. But what was very impressed was that impressed me was that that was very blended with the question of nationality of the nation itself, because and it was very beautiful, it was very beautiful the way they say it and the way they lived it, like they're.
Thank you, Ico. I'm going to come back to you in a second, but I'm going to first go on to the last of the 7 films, but no means least, is Bela by Prantik. Basu, hi, how are you doing? Prantik, you're taking us from Ethiopia to Eastern India, to this village, which has a lot of beautiful rituals and some amazing dancing that the film starts with. Can you tell me about that dancing? It was almost like, I was so surprised. It felt almost like contemporary dance in India.
Thank you for the question, and hello to everyone. So regarding the dance, it's a very popular dance in India, and it has been seen in many films, and because of its grandeur and the mask that they wear. The interesting thing about this dance form is it's a martial arts dance. It's not a classical dance. It's a indigenous folk dance form which has gained a lot of popularity over time. The interesting part is it's only for the men of the community who practice it. I mean, women are not allowed because it is considered too difficult and too taxing for the body, and it is considered that women can't do it. So that I found interesting because I was going into the film, going into the subject, thinking I'll work with the dance group. And when I saw the women in the village, they work way more harder than the men, and they take on much more labor in their body, which is like a thing with women everywhere. They are like much more prone to like take labor in their body. So that is one thing that drew me towards this dance form. And about the dance in particular, yeah, it's an acrobatic form. It is it involves a lot of twists and turns, and it is said that it is inspired by nature itself, like the subtle turns of the neck and the shoulder. It's from the movement that the peacocks make with their neck. So, and yeah, it's mostly the grandeur of the costume and the masks is what draws a lot of attention. And there is a lot of token representation of these dances in Bollywood and in the popular films. So my interest was to go beyond that mask and to see what it is without that elaborate makeup and the costume and what goes into practicing it. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about Bela, the village? Is that somewhere, again, I'm going to ask, is that somewhere you grew up with or somewhere you found out about? The story of the film takes us almost on someone's memory, returning to the village and looking at what happens. How was it for you?
So I don't live there exactly. I live a few hours away from that place, but because I don't live in the city center, I live in the suburbs. My surrounding was somewhat, not exactly similar, but my surrounding area would still be more open fields and ponds. I would see those things while growing up. And then when I went to study and came back to my place, there were high rises around, and things have changed quite a bit around where I live now. So when I collaborated with the dancers in this film for another film earlier, so I knew this group of dancers before I knew of their place. And they saw how I work, how I make my films, and they said, you must come to our village and shoot there. It's the kind of films you're making, what you're doing, you will like it, you must come there. So, and also we became friends, and I visited them anyway without the plan of making a film there. And when I went there, it was automatically I was drawn to that place, the pace, the rhythm of that place, and also this contradiction of like this masculine, feminine, of everything is very gender driven there. Like there are certain roles which are for men, and there are certain activities which are for women, which is very compartmentalized. So for a very long time, I did not consciously think, okay, I'm going to make a film there, because my initial reason to visit that village was to shoot one of the dancers' sister's wedding. They had told me that I'm the only person with a camera they know, and they said, you must come and shoot my sister's wedding. So that was my entry point to the village. I shot the wedding, I had a good meal there, and I kept on staying there and kept on shooting there till I had my hard drives full of footages and thought, okay, maybe there is a film in there.
And how long did you shoot for there in the end?
More than 2 years, I would say, on and off, not at a stretch, but yeah. I kept on visiting there, and they would perform, they would rehearse. A dance competition would come up and they would call me saying, okay, come, you should shoot this, we are going to practice here. So it was more like them calling me there, okay, we are doing this, you should just come over. And I would go and stay there for some time, shoot, and again come back, do a little editing, and then again go there. So yeah, or 2 years on and off, I would say.
And I'm going to ask you a question that I'm then going to throw open to everyone, because there were a few commonalities, I would say, between all of your films, even though they seem very different and from very different parts of the world. One was you chose to film it with this kind of ethereal, abstract, almost wanting to tap into our subconscious. There was no real chronology in a kind of way in the film. Why did you do that? Is that a way of expressing the spiritual?
in a sense, while editing, I was going ahead mostly with the sense of feeling of time, the way I experienced time in that place. And Bela also literally means time. The name, if you literally translate it in the local language, it means time. So the only way I could think I could edit such a huge bank of footage was to have a linear chronology in terms of time. So I put it as a challenge upon myself. Okay, I'll maybe edit it as like 1 day. Then I thought maybe 2 days or 3 days of the film. So that is where the linearity of the chronology was coming from, the time, the construct of time. And the sense of, I don't know whether you're referring to this as the sense of distance from are you asking about the distance or?
Yeah, I'm asking, like, when we're watching, it's not our emotive side that's being called upon. It's like our subconscious, like, how are we feeling watching this, rather than what are we feeling watching this.
That was important for me also to move away from the conventions of making a film with an ethnographic gaze, because even if I stayed there for 2 years, I can't claim to understand the difficulties or the problems they would face in their community. Neither can I expect them to understand my issues as a filmmaker, but we connected at the level of maybe artists. The struggles somewhere were similar. If they're going to perform and they win or not win, they would feel sad, or the thing of taking time out for their practice every day was something which was fascinating me. And at the same time, the film was not just about their dance form or the struggles of a place which is so-called not very developed over time. I wanted to have the film eventually as a part of the memory of my memory of that place, the time I spent there. And as I said, how my surrounding around where I grew up has also changed. This was reminiscent of that childhood memory in a way for me. So it encapsulates that in some way.
And I'm interested in that idea of time for all these filmmakers here, because one thing that became apparent while I was watching the film was these films tell us almost that we're at a divisive point in time where one old traditional way of living seems to be dying, maybe the way of cinema, as we all go into this digital scape. Did you as filmmakers or as individuals want to talk about the importance of keeping rituals, or do you see those, in some other instances, those rituals as something we should definitely move away from? Maybe if I ask Moona that to start with.
In a way, like I grew up in a city, so I don't have a strong local identity. And I feel that I was quite struck by the fact that in this area I was filming, that they have these strong local traditions. And I think in a way for them, it's kind of a way to keep them together as a community. So I see rituals as really important way to like, especially when we're at the age of, I guess, individualism. And so I feel that these sort of like community rituals are important, and also the wolf banishing ritual, the one at the end of the film, I feel that those kind of rituals, I feel that also that community, that they want to tell even the youth that this local village, I feel they are like, a lot of them are moving away. So it's a question also if this village will stay alive, but I feel that there's a strong like motivation with the young people to keep the rituals or the traditions still alive, that there are a lot of young people participating in the sheep rituals and the wolf banishing ritual. But yeah, I guess, yeah, my point of view is someone who grew up in a city with like not so much that I wasn't really connected to these sort of things. I guess sometimes rituals can act as a kind of a hurtful like power, that they have this kind of patriarchal power relations, or that we should move from those kind of things or like renew these traditions. But the ones that my film talks about, I feel that they are really, that I wouldn't want them to disappear. But yeah, let's see. It's also like an issue of climate change, whether the place is going to be there in 100 years time, because it's the land is rising, but then it's like slowing down. So, and there's a delicate balance of like nature and people there. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to jump into Krystina from that, because when I watched your film, I had a sense of community, but I didn't have a real sense that this is a community that you approved of too much. Although there were elements of it that you clearly loved.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to have a neutral look view, and the question you put here, it's very difficult one. There is no right answer, I think, to this, because the term or phenomena of rituals, as well as in narrow sense of this religious acts, as well as in a bright sense, wide sense of set of rules for something, it's very contradictory. It's the same as to ask or to say, what rules are the good rules, or do we need any rules? Rules are there to keep us function and not to kill each other and not to, but there are rules that have become too restrictive, too exclusive, to, if you look in the situation in Belarus at the moment, and it's like you cannot wear certain colors of clothes in the street because they are assumed to be oppositional, and you're not allowed to have your opinion position. You know, this case, I say this is suppressing. So when it becomes suppressing, if in the church there is a place, Orthodox church, let's say, there's a place women are not allowed to go. So I'm kind of hurt by this, and I think this is things to reflect on and to think, be critical about. Maybe really to look in a very individual situations, what is going on.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm going to flick it over to Branda, because I'm coming off that point. Was it important for you that your cousin was a 12-year-old girl? Would it have been a different film, do you think, if it was a 12-year-old boy?
I don't understand the last part. Can you repeat me?
Was it important for you that it was your cousin was a 12-year-old girl, or would it have mattered to you if your cousin was a young boy instead of a young girl?
It doesn't matter to me. The thing that interests me was that that space of time that passes until I revisit the images. Because when she did the communion, I think it was like 10, 11 years old, and it passes 1 year, 1 year and a half, and we revisit the images together. And for me, that was the strong part, because in that ages, I think is in a period of a year, she can change a lot his ideas, his way to see the world, no? And that was the most interesting part for me.
Yeah, great, thank you. Gaetano and Ico, I'm going to ask you both the same question, which is, because you both have films about a parade and ritual, yet they seem in one way to be a force of good. They're a celebration. There's something that makes everybody happy for a day. There's a massive sense of community with them. Even if, particularly in Gaetano and Margherita's film, you see some problems with it. Do you think we need these rituals? Are we tribal people? Do we need the tribe?
I think, Margherita maybe too. As human, we need a ritual. What kind of ritual, I don't know, but we need rituals. And in this kind of ritual we film, I think that the ritual stay in the individual position, but in the collective, it's become spectacular representation, aesthetics. But the individual, we find a lot of people that believe, and the power of this individual. We see a power in a lot of people, a mass of people walking, but not in a religious way, in God, but in the power of the people together.
Yeah. And Ico, for you, did you see?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to translate something.
Anche il rituale è anche il guardare quello spettacolo.
And the ritual exists because someone watching at it. And in our film is a lot of point of view to watch the ritual in the different place and in the different moment of time.
Yeah, exactly. Ico, for you, does the ritual exist through the spectators, or is it through the need or the sense of the future life, for want of a better word?
Well, I think the rituals still exist. Well, those kinds of rituals, they will one day they will cease to exist. But they're human beings always need them, and nowadays maybe it's in the social media. The people get around and they celebrate things and they're even more universal nowadays. Like it's not like in a rituals in a city or in a country. Nowadays I think people celebrate or complain, or they get together to do it in a very universal way through the internet. Maybe it will be the future will be like this more and more, I guess. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's just things are changing, but not the need for the rituals, I guess.
And do you think that, I know some of you have seen each other's films, but do you think that's why there is this group of films that have been showcased this year? Because the rituals are changing, or maybe we fear some of these rituals will die out, or as more and more we become communicating with our phones through screens, and it's a big question for cinema, is the need for community and communal existence, a communal experience, sorry, is that something that will continue? Are you showcasing something that we're going to return to pretty quickly when the pandemic's over?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, or some of us here, are afraid that some of these things cease to exist, and that was always, documentary film, always worried about it, about to crystallize things that will cease to exist. I'm very interested in that. I'm not as like in a museum kind of stuff, but yeah, maybe, because I think the world is changing so fast, and has changed in the last century so fast that it's good that we're filming this kind of stuff, I guess.
And for you, Maria, was it interesting to go to somewhere where the world does not seem to have changed so fast?
Well, I think that the world is changing every day, and I can't believe that these community rituals can disappear for nothing one day. I think that they will just return to something else, to something different. And this is good because, everything is changing, and these are really necessary changes. And I don't think that the documentary should have to save all these traditions just to have such a special thing to do. Well, it's okay. Changing the good. Is it regress or progress? Just only time will show us afterwards. Yeah.
Amazing. And one final question to all of you is a question about all of you used the soundscape in a very special way. It seems like you all worked on sound as much as you worked on the image, maybe more in some cases. What is it about this connection between the oral experience and rituals? What is it that you felt that the sound gave us in your films? Because for me, it connected all of your films, that they all had this dreamlike quality where I felt constantly like either I was being whispered at in my ear, it could have been like the silent whispers of the way a story was being told, or it could have been like the loud whispers of Andrea telling me how she's living her life through her memories. Prantik, if I start with you, how did you use sound and what was the importance for you?
The place itself and where I was working, it's like coming from a city or a suburb. It's quiet, and the crickets and the natural elements, which are in any way quite musical. In contrast, the performance and the music that they bring to the table in the film, it's quite loud and grand. So automatically, we were dealing with two extremes in the film. In the contrary, we did not. Our main attempt in the sound was not to overwork with the sound, because the music and the songs, the music were quite loud and heavy. So the other parts, we wanted to keep a sense of calm, a sense of serenity. That's what we were aiming at. So in my previous films, we have gone really heavy on sound. This, compared to my last films, this is still really quiet and calm that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's this nice loud silence to it, I would say. And that's similar to maybe Christina or Moona's film. Would you like to talk a bit about how you, or Maria, how you work with sound and what you were trying to evoke with that in terms of relaying the sense of ritual?
I was not actually manipulating sound in any way, just cleaning and really using camera and sound equipment as a scientific apparatus, just collecting information and then presenting it in the best way. But what I noticed then after a film kind of born, that it's for sure a lot of machine sounds that create rhythm, and also a lot of music. I was really surprised the film becomes so musical in the end, because music kind of, it's a big part in our also everyday rituals. It's a background, that hairdresser, it's a main subject at a music class, and it's a propaganda instrument in some military parade, in a victory day, to testify, to say we won the Second World War and we will do it again if it will be necessary. What is if it, also subject to reflect on what is not all black and white. And of course, the verbal component, like what people say, like they make orders, like stand up, straighten your backs. It was, of course, I have very less dialogue, but they are very penetrative, I would say.
Great.
In my case, I have the recurring theme of the bells that I was already from the beginning of the film that I wanted to use them. There are the bells of the sheep and the bells in the ritual. And I think my film is rather quiet. So I wanted to emphasize, give a lot of space for nature. But I think what comes to my mind, like this element of bells, was that what we were trying to have a kind of a dramatic element also in the film, that it follows it from the first images to the last almost.
Amazing. And Maria?
And the only music that I used in my film was 10 seconds of ambient, which is circuit and translated to the film. And also, well, I gave space to the nature too, like wind, snow, and all these things, which helped me to just use all this atmosphere of the community, well, and the voice of the boy. So that's all.
May I jump in and ask a question to Maria?
Sure.
The scene where people walk in snow, a lot of people walking on the snow, and there's very present sound of snow sound. Recorded separately, I assume. Was it simultaneous to this act? Because I had the feeling I hear very distinct, separate, single people walking, not like a crowd. And I thought it was important for this scene, but I wonder how you did it, what you did.
Yeah, it was recorded not in that community, and well, the thing that in this like final scene, the sound and the image is quite separated. It was important for me because well, when your mind is changing, like everything's separated, you're like falling apart, and maybe well, if you recognize this thing, maybe it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, because rituals has something very unifying, like making everybody to mass or mass crowd, and that scene was reminding we're still individuals, and there's still individuals walking this way.
Thank you for the question.
Amazing. Well, we're running out of time now, so I'm going to thank you all for making such wonderful films, which are all screening at the Vision Theorial Festival, which is going on presently. I look forward to watching the films again. I enjoy them very much, and I will head off now and partake in my own rituals, and hopefully you all do too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.